Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a very frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, please drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and you'll see me look from time to time, and we'll respond or read whatever your comments are. So, today's guest is a good friend and one of the most creative chefs I know, Cyrus Keefer. How did he go from being accepted to a top music school to top toke? The path is never a straight one. Join us as we talk about his journey to culinary consultancy. And here he is.
All right.
Hey, so what's on your plate today other than doing the show?
Um, I traveled to Bethany Beach to my alma mater, DeFibo's restaurant group. So I'm working with them over the next few months and having a lot of fun with their team while they're in Italy. So I'm in Bethany Beach now. I'm a block from the ocean. And then tonight I'm headed back to mix it up with the chefs in the back.
Well, that sounds great. Anybody from the Maryland, Delaware, DC area knows that DeFibo's is like a great place down in Bethany. And I remember ages ago where they had just started off as a little Italian shop and selling sandwiches,
Mm-hmm.
and now have this huge restaurant, impossible to get reservations. And so you're consulting with them, the
Mm-hmm.
family. Where's the family now? Are they local? Where are they?
I mean, they live in Bethany area. They have a market across the street from DeFibo's in Bethany. They have a restaurant in Rehoboth, but they are literally traveling. They're in Italy right now, and they took a bunch of staff there. They take their staffs there, and they do tours there. So they're giving their staff a chance to see, what they like to bring back to the States. Pretty awesome.
Right. To let people know, I know a bit about your cuisine, and your culinary creations usually marry both local, regional, and international cuisines.
Hmm.
Penchant for Asian, mixing it up. One of the little things you did, Defy Moi, was Defy Me, was a
Hmm.
little place in the basement of 13.5. And it was escargot bao bun, melted leeks Gruyere, black truffle broth. So creative. Thai squid noodles, long hots, Thai basil, insane shellfish broth. What a great mix. I adore your food. I,
Okay.
I met you when you were at Maisie's, and that had to do, I was working with Ricardo Basio at Soda Sopa for a number of years.
Hmm.
And I came in, and on your menu, I will never forget this, was a spaghetti and meatball sandwich.
Yeah.
And I asked you about it. And this is something you did when you were growing up, if memory serves me, because we're
Yeah.
going back
Yeah.
12 or
Yeah.
13 years.
Yeah.
And that was a clue that you were a person to watch. Now, you are from Delaware originally,
A mix
correct?
between Pennsylvania first and then a little bit of Delaware and Philadelphia. Kind of hopped around.
Was food a creative thing growing up? And I'm not saying that you were cooking, but mother, father, how was food in central to the family?
My father's side of the family had a lot of food happening, and my Aunt Mary and her meatballs, my grandmother and her cooking, just very food centric, and always have those memories of like a lot of people getting together and eating and celebrating life. And didn't know that that was going to really fill a lot of the gaps in my life and get me somewhere. And but definitely plays a huge role in my focus and pulls on the heartstrings with the food.
Right. But you were more music.
Yeah.
Recently, it seems to be a running theme with Shirley Hale Kowalski, who here in Baltimore has Babies on Fire, but is living in Portugal.
Hmm.
And she and her husband are all about music and have an indie radio station going on, and they both sing and play music. And then I had on Chef Dennis Prescott, who's like a TV host and internet sensation with like 1 million followers. He was working in Nashville. I don't know if you know the story. And he pulled out a Jamie Oliver cookbook. Somebody gave it to him, and that's when he first started cooking.
Very
And
cool.
he left. Everybody sort of has found another way to food to support themselves and continue the creativity. Um, when you were growing up, you were invited to enroll in a very prestigious music school
Hmm.
for your, I think it was voice.
Yeah.
Um, and you were in a band. Were you playing alternative music then? I know that's what you're doing now. What
Yeah.
were you playing then?
We were pretty heavy alternative music. Yeah. Thus the reason for the music school too, to protect my voice and stuff like that, because it was, it was a little bit more loud. I wasn't screaming or anything, but it was loud. It was hard to sing over.
Okay, so when did that transition? What started you? When did you leave music and when did you start food? What was that like
Um,
for you?
yeah, so the music thing, everyone thinks they're going to be famous, and you play on the road and you get these showcases and you get to do all this stuff. And we had been together for quite a bit of time, the two bands that ended up emerging into one. And we're just growing up, and playing for free beer was getting pretty old, and calling out of work is an impossibility every weekend at a restaurant. So I started using restaurants as a means to be able to play, never really wanting to be in them, and never really, focusing on them, but did find myself finding it pretty easy to do what the others were doing in there in the simpler places, and never really paid much attention to it. And then I actually really, when I decided to stop the music, at the time, I thought about moving to the beach. And when I did, DeFibo's restaurant was the first place that I went to. When I started working there, I realized that, wow, they were putting on a show every day. They had a great audience. They had a great team. They were very passionate. I was learning a ton of things I had no idea about. And when I was there, I had basically had some conversations, and the word culinary school came up a couple times. And then I went to the restaurant school and was commuting from Bethany to the restaurant school twice a week part time while I was working in the restaurant business. And gosh, once I got in there and saw those chefs and saw what was going on, and I was hooked. And then I would go back and work a couple hours on my own time every day to have specials I wanted to create, and I was driven. I was in 100%.
And that commute was to Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was a good drive. It was
Yeah.
a long
Uh,
drive.
So you started basically at the beach, Delaware. You went to Florida, the beach. You ended up in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And let's see, I think your career started 2003.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Geez, I'm old.
and yep, I remember being at your 40th birthday.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I have another one to look for, big one to look forward to.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up.
Um, the when you were in Philly, you got to stage at the very famous Lebec Finn.
Yep.
20 Manning, Pod, Salt, Air, and Ray.
Yep.
So we met when you were in Baltimore. Your creativity really blossomed when you went to work at Fork and Wrench, which
Yeah.
was a quirky restaurant. I think you sort of had free wheel to create a menu.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case when somebody goes into a restaurant. You have budgetary needs, you have what do the clients want. But Fork and Wrench was such a creative restaurant that just in going into and the visual to it, it just sort of followed suit. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where um, I think I really saw you blossom. And with the grace of good connections, uh, you got a whole write up on Star Chefs,
Mm-hmm.
Antoinette Bruno, and she came back in when you were at 13.5 and did
Yep.
another little piece on you.
Mm-hmm.
But there was when I say creative folks, I know that there's certain restaurants that people hired Cyrus to create recipes that are still on their menu. I'm not going to say where, but I know there's a lavender salmon dish in a restaurant that's been on their menu forever that you created. And for and your sauteed calamari was on Baratecca's menu for ages,
For a long time. Yeah.
very long time.
Mm.
And it's not easy to do a sauteed calamari and have it tender, and that you could do. I remember going through when we first got together at Fork and Wrench. I sat down, you gave me dish after dish, and each one I went, wow, so creative. The one dish that we really featured in Star Chefs was your bone marrow. Can you describe that dish?
Yeah. I had been working with bone marrow for a little bit, and it was kind of like a really, popular thing to get some of these, odd things back then. I think it was like 2014 or 15. And I had had it everywhere. And I was like, sometimes it's seasoned really good, sometimes it's not. So we started brining ours, and I think I brined that one in like a little fish sauce to give it some umami too. And then when we roasted it, we made a scallop mousseline that we piped over the top of it that we broiled. And I think we used like a little yuzu and a couple other things, but it was super flavorful and really different because scallops don't have fat because it's not its nature. It's a muscle. So I thought it would be cool to have the intense like marrow, with the scallop together and give it a cool mouthfeel and flavor. And it was a really good dish. It was cool. It was fun.
Yeah, I know it definitely impressed Antoinette and a number of people, just your creativity. I think if I went back in my records, you have cooked at the James Beard House 3 times. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the first time?
The first time I went with Robin and I'd been working for Robin at Beerotech, and I'm like, Robin, you got the connects. Let's do a beer dinner, and no one has done one. I don't think anyone had done one in Baltimore at the time yet.
Right.
We were one of the trailblazers for that. I'm happy to say, and so before the dinner, I actually, started talking with Chef Sajan, who was the chef at Fork and Wrench, and she really got that place jump started and did an amazing job. And we became friends. And she's like, I'm going to be moving. We're going to be looking for a replacement. I think you'd be an awesome person for this job. And I said, you know, I need a place to be more creative. I'm finding a need to like really be myself and have menu control. And so I did a tasting there. And, when I got done with the tasting, I went to both the owners, and it just felt like I was home. Like the kitchen felt right for me. The food around me just felt right. What they were looking for felt right. And I went up to them immediately, and I'm like, just to let you know, I want the job. You know, dead in their eyes. I want the job. They told me I think close to 70 or 80 people applied, and a lot of tastings for that job, and they felt as comfortable as I did. So we really felt great, and even the staff. I mean, we all were a good collection of people that really wanted the same thing. It was a very easy place to be creative. So back to what you asked, right during that time, Sagen was also going to be going to the James Beard House along with Beeroteca because we invited other restaurants to go along. So they ended up taking me since I started at Fork and Ranch. Sagen and I went and did that first dinner together. And that was really nice. And, we still all got along really well with Beeroteca and all that stuff. Everything was on good terms. But while I was up there, of course, I had to get in their ears, and I was like, by the way, I'm coming up with a new menu at Fork and Ranch. I really want to do another dinner. And within, I think, a little less than a year, we did our first dinner there. And I think that menu was really awesome. We did so many cool things on that menu.
Well, a lot of what you've done is cool. A lot of it has an Asian slant to it. And there's always we talk about yuzu, and the flavors that come from Japan and Asia are very fresh and clean and palate sort of brightening.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, I was friends with you. You start having problems, health issues, and thought it was sinus. I think you had sinus surgery. You couldn't taste the food, sort of like it wasn't as bad as Gran Acketts, who had tongue
my
cancer.
goodness, no. Yeah, my
But
goodness.
for a chef not being able to taste, I think you said your favorite kitchen tool is a tasting spoon. And if you can't smell it, you're only getting sweet, sour, bitter, salt. That's all you get on your tongue. The rest is through your nose. But I think eventually just the things that chefs go through, that was determined that you were gluten intolerant, and that was causing a lot of those issues. So you can't deal with anything that's got gluten. So
I do now.
What?
It's been, I think I took a break from it for 8 years, and I reintroduced it to my body, which a lot of people tell you to do. Like if you have an intolerance, it's something that you can do. If you take some time off from it, you can see what happens when you reintroduce it to your body. Now, I reintroduced it and I eat it more than I should. It's still very hard on my body. It makes me bloated. It makes me a little more fatigued and stuff like that. And at that point in time, it actually caused a growth on my larynx, which was kind of like a cyst, which they thought could have been cancer. And that was the whole thing. Is I was trying to expedite one night and had like a laryngitis, and my voice wouldn't come back. And they put me on a couple things to bring my voice back and see if they could clear it up, and it didn't work. So then the next best thing was to go in and have it laser removed and biopsied. And when that came back, I got great news that it was just, nothing, which is great. And later I got my voice back, but it was kind of difficult. I was writing a lot of things down, but it forced me to jump back on the hotline for a while. And that was really great time. It was a really great time. So I was very grateful for that.
I think about we've had so many different interactions that the struggles are real. COVID didn't help. And because I know you are a singer, you were very much involved with indie music and the new technology. Is that what kept you busy? How did you manage through COVID? Because if you don't have a restaurant to go into.
Yeah, I um I wrote a ton of music with people from all over the country, and other countries. A friend of mine was a drummer, and he introduced me to a site called, it was off of Reddit. It's called Bedroom Bands. So it's international, and it's basically people that are looking to find musicians across the world to help them finish something. So a lot of times artists will write music, but they won't have a lyricist or a singer. And you go on, you listen. If you like something, you write them a little message and say, "Hey, I'd like to take a crack at it." And you audition, and if something good comes out of it, you work together and you put some music out. And I had worked with a guy in Germany, a guy in Istanbul, a guy in Dubai, some guys in California. And I think I probably did about 60 songs total, through the genre of like jazz and pop and punk rock and a little heavier metal. Um, Drove my wife and son completely crazy, and the dogs, because they're not hearing the music. They're just hearing this person, you know, singing and screaming upstairs in the bedroom. But yeah, it was a great outlet. It really kept my mind at ease and kept me creative, because without that creative kitchen, and you get kind of addicted to the pace of the kitchen and how fast it is, how hot it is, how intense it is. And to go from that to very chill life, it's very difficult.
Right.
Very
Just anybody who saw my stories on Facebook or Instagram, the music that played with Cyrus's posts on my stories was Airways Spectacular, and that was him singing.
difficult.
Look, I'm creative too. I found it.
There's a lot
um,
on there. There's a lot of
yeah.
different stuff on there.
Um, just let people know in 2013, you were Best Chef by Baltimore City Paper. Um, the As a consultant, I mean, I sent you a link. I don't know if you got it. The New York Times had an article, Why Chefs Are Leaving Restaurants.
Hmm.
What do you think that people don't know about restaurants, consumers, that they should know? I mean, the New York Times, the chefs are frustrated. There's so much more pressure. Restaurant was a hard business to begin with. There are
Hmm.
many other contributing factors. What are you saying to people that are reaching out to you as a consultant about opening a restaurant or fixing a restaurant? What are you saying? It's sort of an open-ended question. Go for it.
Well, the hard part again. I mean, a lot of people over the years. I had a few people, because everyone gets good and bad press. No one knows why a chef leaves somewhere. First and foremost, um, they don't understand the commitment it takes. It takes away your family life. It takes away a lot of your personal life. You get calls on your day off. Sometimes you get called in on your vacation. Sometimes you don't get a vacation. And this isn't a complaint, and it is too at the same time. I understood the hard work, so I get that part. So when I go in to a place now, a lot of it is, I mean, let's be honest, it's financial. First of all, it's a business, right? So if
Right.
it's not feeding the people that put the risk out, then there needs to be changes made. So a lot of times chefs go in, they're ultra creative, but they don't know the business side. They lose money, they're overstaffed or whatever have you, and problems come up because again, the people that took the risk, put the money in, need to make the money, and they also have to pay everyone that's there. Um, it takes a team, and the chef is one person. So if you take the team away from the chef, you got one person. So you can't expect something that came out a certain way that has a lot of work to do to be done by that one person without the team too. So there's a lot of things that I'm looking into, and I mean I've been doing this for 3 decades. So owners and the people that I've worked for in hotels and small restaurants, I've always kept my eye on the business side because as the chef, you're the first person to get the door slammed and say, what's going on here? Why are our numbers so high? Why is the labor this high? It needs to be this high. Why are the food costs this high? They need to be this high. And a lot goes into that. One, chefs want quality products, cost money, right? So you need to charge higher prices. But the economy matters. Can the guests afford to pay for those things, right? So everything is really going hand in hand on what can be done inside of the walls of the place. So the first thing I say is let's work on the culture in the kitchen. How do we create a menu so that if you do pull people back from the equation, that it can still run and the chef's not killing themselves? Because that's going to cause the turnover. How many places have gone through 20 chefs? A lot. How many places have gone through a chef every 3 months? A lot. And then there's other places that have kept them for a long time. But I can guarantee you the reason that those guys are there or girls are there for a long time is because things are working. You know, a restaurant that's financially sound and doing well, that does these numbers and knows these numbers, but can then commit to some quality at the same time, there's no issues there. Whereas a smaller restaurant might start with a staff of like 5, and then the owner's going, you're going to have to cut through these people. We're not making any money. Well, the menu is going to have to reflect what you have left. The chef can't do every single thing in there. Even a small place that's a chef owned building, it'd be great if they could. They could spend all the money and put all the money back in their account, but they still need a team. Orders, receiving, ordering, pricing, admin work. There's a lot more that goes into it than just getting a pan hot, putting it in the oil, turning it over and garnishing it. And that's what I say to the guest is that, you know, some of these projects take 3 days to get to the plate. 3 days to get those flavors. So when you're oohing and eyeing over a place, it's normally because they're doing that process. When you go to a place and you read this poetic manuscript and you go in and it's kind of like a dud experience, they're not doing the processes. They're not adding acid where they need to. They're not seasoning. They're not tasting. There's so many places to mess up. And chefs were working, gosh, when I was coming up, I was working 70 hours normal, 70 or more, working sometimes 6 or 7 days a week. I think when I took Fork and Wrench over, I think I worked like 38 days straight before I could take a day off because I had turnover. Oh, there's a new chef coming. Let's quit. Or, you know, we're not going to get along, or change is scary to people. And, you know, what happens when the place does brunch, lunch, dinner? It's very hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Well, I think the show The Bear
Yeah.
has lent some insight into some of what goes on. I still don't know why they say it's a comedy and list it as, because it's quite serious.
That's a borderline stroke.
Yeah, it is. It is. A quote that you had, and I think it might have been on Star Chefs, and this makes sense, and the Bear sort of holds it up. The last dish that is served is just as important as the first dish.
Yeah.
That was one of your quotes.
Yeah.
Everyone is a VIP. That was your quote.
Yeah. Every single person. Yeah.
Well, just everybody at chefcyruskeefer.com, everything you want to know, and reaching out, and his Instagram, Facebook. You can find all those links on chefcyruskeefer.com. And now we're down to my last questions that I always ask.
Gotcha.
Okay, if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice, your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Patience is everything.
Okay. And were you impatient as a young man?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You want it, and you want it right now, I think. Isn't,
Yeah.
what was the phrase? God, grant me patience, but I want it right now.
Yeah.
Best bite you've had all week?
The best bite?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
BITE.
Goodness. Well, I had Big Bob's meatball over at the Phoebus. I haven't had one in 23 years. I'd say that
Okay.
took me
Uh,
back.
2 things that are a must in your home refrigerator.
Um, some kind of sparkling water. I'm addicted to sparkling water, and for cooking wise, um, ginger.
Okay. What was your ultimate culinary fail?
Um, Geez, there's many. There's too many. I did drop like well, besides like some dishes that were just lousy, I did drop like a ton of prawns down the stairs at Lebec Fin when I was there, and that was super embarrassing.
Well, I can imagine that one.
Oh.
There was a crew of people that went up to Lebec Fin one night from Baltimore. It was 12 or 15. It was close towards when George Perrier was
Yeah,
looking to leave, but we got the tour of the kitchen and he came up and Gerard, who used to be the pastry chef there, who's here in Baltimore,
yeah,
was with us. It was a lovely evening, but it was such a well-known restaurant for eons, 40 years easily. I'm going back on that, but I digress. But you took me there. If you wake up tomorrow with a new talent, what should it be? What do
uh,
you want it to be?
interior designer, restaurants, love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
Um, I think we covered everything. Can I give a shout out to my family, Angela, Gabriel, Mia? Love you guys. I've been away from them for 10 days. It's been a long time for their dad to be away. Shout out to Eric Seeley, birthday boy today. Saw that earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I know that he wanted to watch, and it's great chatting with you. We have so much history, but if you can find out where he's cooking, if you're going to be down the shore, hit the Phoebos. Don't miss it out. And you're doing your consultancy sort of like Philadelphia, Delaware, Maryland, DC area,
Yeah.
just to let people know that you're
Under like
not.
a 3-hour trip. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Cy. Been great. I know I'll see you soon. Have a great week. And I just have a couple announcements to make. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, let's see. Next week's guest will be Jessie Sierra Ross, a food and lifestyle blogger, television food personality, and the imagination behind the blog Straight to the Hips, baby. With an emphasis on scratch cooking and hands-on approach to party planning, Jessie Sierra has a new book coming out called Seasons Around the Table, effortless entertaining with floral tablescapes, seasonal recipes. It hits the shelves October 29th, just in time for holiday entertaining and throughout the year. Always feel free to reach out to me via my email, which is food@jmoreliving, or Instagram @Dara Cooks. And on Facebook, look up the Food Enthusiast. I post there on a regular basis. You can sign up at jmoreliving.com for their free This Week in Baltimore Eating newsletter. Go to jmoreliving.com and click on the Connect menu and sign up there to receive the free newsletter every Tuesday. It has the show, it has recipes, it's all about food, and we all have to eat, don't we? All our shows are immediately archived in video form on JMore's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back to our archives and enjoy past shows. May your plates always, always remain full Hope to see you next Thursday.